Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts on the new DC animated movie Tomorrow versus Crisis of Infinite Earths. So, I've said this before. I believe DC animated movies are now cursed. In fact, all of DC is cursed, from the people who run it, from the live action movies to the TV shows. Everything just seems to be cursed. Why? The MCU. The very moment they tried to be like them, everything went down the crapper. So, there's a new DC animated movie coming out. The trailer just dropped like yesterday or 2 days ago, and it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, some people knew this movie was coming out because, they research stuff. And what is exactly Crisis of Infinite Earths? Well, it's a reset. Basically, in the comics, they had way too many characters and they had way too many Elseworld stories and stuff. So they decided to simplify it. They decided to destroy parallel dimensions, getting rid of all those different Earths and all those different variants of heroes, villains, and characters and stuff like that. I believe that's also what killed that version of, I forget which Earth it was, Earth 1 or Earth 2, whatever one it was, of Supergirl and Barry Allen. And, after that, they started changing things up. We got Wally West and all this other stuff for the longest time, and Barry stayed off the grid because he was dead. And then, I forget what started Barry Allen started to be popular again. Something happened in the comics or TV or something like that, and they just decided to bring him back for everything. But anyways, it was a way for them to simplify it. Now, some people are very familiar with this. If you watch the Arrowverse, they did something like that. And even in DC animation, they kind of did something like that back in the day with Justice League Crisis of Two Earths, which was a great movie, but it was not a faithful adaptation. It was just like loosely based and everything, very loosely based. And it's a really great movie. And so now, once again, DC wants to hit the reset button for a third time in their animation division. But why exactly? Well, let's go back to the beginning of the good old days. Now, when it comes to DC animation, it's normally referred to as DC A, I think. Or DCAM, or DCUA. You know what? They got too many different names and two different kinds. Let's just do it like this. Let's break it down into three groups. You got your classic animated movies, you got your new 52 animated movies, and you have the Tomorrowverse. Everything was going good until they started trying to be like the MCU around the new 52. So, the classic animated movie, basically, these were movies that were loosely based or directly based off of the comics back in the day. Every movie had its own unique art style to it. And originally, they was just like made up movies that was loosely based. Then somewhere towards the middle, they decided to actually adapt the comics from like page by page and everything. People love these movies. Whichever version you got, people love them. But then they decided to be like the MCU a little bit. So they rebooted everything with a Flashpoint movie, and they created the new 52 animated movies. Here, everything was different. Everything had the same exact art style. Everything was connected. Every movie, no matter what group of heroes, what superhero, it don't matter. Everything was connected. They even had post-end credit scenes and stuff that was supposed to lead to the next movie. Originally, they did until they stopped. And then people was kind of like, okay, do you remember this at the end of this movie? How come this hasn't happened in the next movie? That's when things started to teeter, and that's when things started to get cursed. Then they decided, you know what, let's go as hard as we can. Let's bring up the violence, bring up the blood, bring up the gore, and bring up the sex appeal. And then that's kind of what ruined everything. People started to not like these movies no more. It was like too much, like, and people were just like having enough. Then when they realized, oh wait, people hate the New 52 comics, because that's when the New 52 comic was starting to die out. So then they started to adapt classic comic books, but with the New 52 art style, which was really started to confuse people. Needless to say, sales were going down. So they decided to reboot it with another Flashpoint. They decided to destroy that universe with an apocalyptic type movie, reset it, and then we got the Tomorrowverse. And well, out of all these three categories, there's only one set that I do not own the DVDs to, and that's the Tomorrowverse. I've stated this before. I don't like the Tomorrowverse. The animation style has changed once again, and it's remained constant. So every Tomorrowverse movie has that same art style. I hate that art style. It's lazy, and it looks like really flat, like flash animation. Not only that, but once again, all the stories are connected and stuff because they're building up their cinematic universe yet again. And well, sales have been down again. However, in the beginning, people actually liked these movies. I didn't, but people did. They took away all the violence and the gore, and they started to be more thought-driven movies. But here's the thing. They're not based on no comics. They're simply just made up movies. And that kind of irritated people a while because even with the classic and the New 52, you had a blend. You had some that were based on comics and you had some that were not. Here, none whatsoever. And they just started making things up as they go. And so when they started doing that, sales once again started going down, even though fans started to like these movies. But then towards, there aren't that many Tomorrowverse movies. There is a Flash movie, a Batman movie, a Superman movie. The Superman movie, not the Superman, but the Batman movie was broken up into two. Then you had a Green Lantern movie, a Supergirl movie. And I lost count because what the heck was I doing? Okay, Flash, Superman, Batman, Supergirl, Green Lantern. So you only had really 5 movies continuity wise in this whole thing, right? Then they decided to do a Trinity movie on World War. Or I can't talk. When you say 2 words with W's in it, you get tongue tied. War, world. There I go. And people hate that movie. People hate that movie. People hate that movie. And, after they did this reboot, there was no mention of the previous universe. Now, when it comes to the New 52, at some point in time, they did mention the old universe when they decided to destroy destroy the world and the heroes and reboot it because Constantine realized what Flash had did. The only time the old continuities have ever been mentioned was in that Constantine short, which was actually a pretty good movie, but it was a short. And so here, once again, because sales are down, they have decided, all right, let's just reboot this whole thing. So they're gonna do a Crisis of Infinite Earths and just start destroying parallel worlds and heroes and Supergirl's in it, and she's probably gonna die, and Flash is in it, so he's probably gonna die and stuff like that. And it's quite a shame because their Tomorrowverse is barely a decade old. I don't think it's that. I don't remember when it started, what year and stuff, but it's relative new and they barely been out the gate and already they want to reboot. This is a sign of failure, and It's shocking and amazing because these same people worked on previous movies in the New 52 and also the classic movies. And it's like, how could y'all do this, man? Because, like, take the Green Lantern movie, which was terrible. John Schemper made that, and John Schemper made Spider-Man the animated series. That was gold. He also worked in comics. What the heck happened, John? Like, I don't understand. And when it came to the New 52, James Tucker took over that from Bruce Timm. And every time, and James Tucker, you know, he's a classic dude. He loves the classic comics. That's why Batman Brave and the Bold looked the way it did. Whenever he would do interviews or the making of a movie, he never looked happy. Never. I mean, never. You can tell he didn't want to make those New 52 type movies. And so I don't know where DC animation is gonna go, but they need to do something fast. They need to start doing what they did in the classic stuff. And this brings me to my next point. When I looked at the trailer for this movie, the animation was the same as the Tomorrowverse. Why? That is lazy. Every variant has the same type of animation. That is lazy. Not only that, but this should have been like across the Spider-Verse. They should have had every parallel Earth have its own unique animation. That would have made more sense when they want to start destroying worlds and, you know, everybody start looking different. But there's a problem. DC has gotten lazy. Warner Brothers has gotten even more lazier, which is why this animation looks the way it does. And it's very unimpressive. It's dull, it's flat, it's muted. Like, it doesn't make me happy for any movie whenever I watch these movies. And that's part of the reason why I don't like these movies, is mainly the animation. It just puts me in a funky kind of mood to where I'm just kind of like blah, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, yeah, they need to go back. They need to stop being lazy, and they need to start being more creative. They need to start adapting more of the comics again. When they started doing their own thing, and, you know, it kind of, it just felt like almost like they didn't care and they wanted to make their own television show but couldn't, so they started doing these animated movies with their own made up, like, you know, universes and stuff. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, like, I was having fun when they was adapting the comics and stuff, because I don't read comics, so I was starting to learn from them and stuff, you know. And now I'm just watching what I used to watch in the 90s, made up stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.